The perfect day that never was. The morning sun streamed through the stained glass windows of St. Catherine's Cathedral, painting rainbow patterns across the white marble floor. Sophia Martinez stood before the full-length mirror, her reflection almost unrecognizable in the custom-made wedding gown that had cost more than her father's annual salary. The dress was a masterpiece of silk and lace, each pearl hand-sewn, each detail perfected over months of fittings. "You look like a princess," her mother whispered, tears already streaming down her face as she adjusted the cathedral-length veil. But Sophia barely heard her. Her hands trembled as she clutched the bouquet of white roses and peonies, her heart hammering so loudly she wondered if everyone in the room could hear it. In 2 hours, she would become Mrs. Damian Blackwood, wife to one of the youngest billionaires in the country, partner to the man who had swept into her ordinary life like a storm and promised her the world. She had met Damian 18 months ago at a charity gala where she was working as an event coordinator. He had spilled champagne on her dress, apologized with a smile that could melt glaciers, and spent the rest of the evening making her laugh until her cheeks hurt. 3 months later, he proposed on a yacht under the stars, with a diamond so large she was afraid to wear it in public. "Are you nervous?" her younger sister Maria asked, squeezing her hand. Terrified, Sophia admitted with a shaky laugh. "What if I trip walking down the aisle? What if I forget my vows?" "You won't," Maria assured her. "This is your fairy tale, sophomore. You deserve every bit of happiness coming your way." If only she had known how quickly fairy tales could turn into nightmares. The first sign of trouble. The cathedral was packed with over 300 guests, a who's who of business moguls, celebrities, and society elite. Sophia's own friends and family clustered nervously in their assigned pews, overwhelmed by the grandeur of it all. Her father, a simple mechanic who had worked double shifts to give his daughters a good life, looked uncomfortable in his rented tuxedo, but his eyes shone with pride. The string quartet began playing, the signal that it was time. Sophia took her father's arm, her heart soaring with joy and anticipation. This was it. The moment she had dreamed about since she was a little girl playing dress-up in her mother's closet. They waited for the doors to open. And waited. And waited. "What's happening?" Sophia's father whispered to the wedding coordinator, a thin woman with a clipboard who was speaking urgently into her phone. The coordinator's face had gone pale. I'm trying to reach Mr. Blackwood right now. There seems to be a delay." A delay. Such a small word for such a crushing moment. 15 minutes passed. Then 30. Sophia stood in the vestibule, her bouquet wilting in her sweaty palms, her smile frozen on her face like a mask. Guests began whispering. Some pulled out their phones. She heard the click of cameras, saw flashes of light. "Maybe there's traffic," Maria suggested desperately. "You know how bad the roads get downtown." But Damian had been staying at the cathedral's adjacent hotel. There was no traffic to fight through. No excuse that made sense. After an hour, Sophia's father gently took the bouquet from her hands. "Maybe we should." "No," she said firmly, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's coming. He promised me. He promised." But even as she said it, her phone buzzed in her clutch. With shaking hands, she pulled it out and saw a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words that would haunt her for years to come. "I'm sorry, Sophia." The collapse of everything. The humiliation was instant and complete. Within hours, photos of the abandoned bride flooded social media. Headlines screamed across tabloids, "Billionaire bachelor gets cold feet and left at the altar, the wedding that never was." Someone had leaked video. Footage of Sophia standing at the altar, waiting, her face a portrait of hope slowly crumbling into devastation. She became a meme. A cautionary tale. A joke. Her phone rang constantly with reporters demanding interviews, former friends calling with fake sympathy, and creditors asking about the wedding bills that Damian had promised to cover but never did. The cathedral, the reception venue, the catering, the flowers, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt that suddenly became her family's responsibility. Damien had vanished completely. His penthouse was empty, his office cleared out, his phone disconnected. It was as if he had never existed at all, except for the crater he left behind in Sophia's life. Her father had to take out a second mortgage on their house. Her mother stopped going to church because she couldn't face the pitying looks. Maria deferred her college acceptance to work 2 jobs helping pay down the debt. And Sophia? Sophia broke into pieces so small she didn't think she could ever put herself back together again. She spent 3 months in her childhood bedroom, curtains drawn, barely eating, replaying every moment of their relationship and trying to understand where she had gone wrong. Had she been too clingy? Not interesting enough? Had he met someone else? Was their entire relationship a lie? The not knowing was worse than the abandonment itself. Rising from the ashes. But there's something powerful about hitting rock bottom. You realize you have 2 choices: stay down or claw your way back up. Sophia chose to fight. She started small, taking online courses in business management while working night shifts at a diner. She learned about marketing, finance, and entrepreneurship. She poured all her anger, all her pain, all her humiliation into building something that could never be taken from her, her own success. 3 years after the wedding that never was, she launched her own event planning company with Maria as her partner. They specialized in creating beautiful, meaningful celebrations on modest budgets, helping ordinary people have extraordinary moments. The business she had named Phoenix Events grew slowly but steadily, built on hard work, creativity, and word-of-mouth recommendations from satisfied clients. By year 5, Phoenix Events was one of the most sought-after planning companies in the city, featured in magazines and blogs, praised for its innovation and heart. Sophia had transformed from the girl who was left at the altar into a woman who built her own empire from the ashes of her worst day. She cut her long hair into a sharp bob, traded her soft pastels for power suits in black and burgundy, and developed a reputation as someone who was brilliant, driven, and completely uninterested in romance. She went on exactly 3 dates in 5 years, each one ending with her making an excuse to leave early. The truth was, she had built walls around her heart so high that nothing could get through. And she preferred it that way. Until the day Damien Blackwood walked back into her life. The unexpected return. Sophia was in her office reviewing proposals for a high-profile wedding when her assistant knocked urgently on the door. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here who insists on seeing you. He won't give his name, but he says it's about a business matter that can't wait." "Tell him to make an appointment like everyone else," Sophia said without looking up from her laptop. "I tried, but he said," her assistant's voice dropped to a whisper. "He said you'd want to hear what he has to say about second chances." Sophia's blood ran cold. Her fingers froze over the keyboard. "Send him away. Sophia, please." The voice came from the doorway, deep and achingly familiar, cutting through 5 years of carefully constructed armor like it was made of paper. She looked up, and there he was. Damien Blackwood looked different. Thinner. Harder. There were shadows under his eyes and lines around his mouth. That hadn't been there before. His usually immaculate suit was slightly wrinkled, his hair longer than he used to keep it. He looked like a man who had been running from something for a very long time. But his eyes were the same, those impossibly blue eyes that had once made her believe in forever. "Get out," Sophia said quietly, proud that her voice didn't shake. "I know I have no right to be here." "You have less than no right. You have negative rights. You destroyed my life and disappeared without a trace, and now you want what? Forgiveness? Closure? You can go straight to. I need your help." The words came out raw and desperate. "My company is falling apart. My reputation is in ruins. I'm facing bankruptcy and criminal investigations, and you're the only person with the skills and connections to help me salvage something from the wreckage." The sheer audacity of it stole her breath. "You think I would help you?" After what you did? I'll pay you whatever you ask. I'll sign any contract you want. Oh. Money? Sophia laughed, a bitter sound with no humor in it. You think this is about money? You left me at the altar in front of 300 people. You cost my family everything we had. You turned me into a national joke. And now you want me to save you? Damien's jaw tightened. I know. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm asking you to help me professionally. You built an empire from nothing. You're brilliant at managing crises and transforming disasters into opportunities. I need that brilliance now. Why should I? She stood, placing her hands flat on her desk to keep them from shaking. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't throw you out and watch you burn. He was silent for a long moment, and she saw something flicker in his eyes. Pain. Regret. And beneath it all, something else she couldn't quite name. Because, he said finally, I never stopped thinking about you. Not for a single day. And I know you want to know why I left. The real reason. Help me, and I'll tell you everything. Every secret. Every lie. Every truth I should have told you 5 years ago. The devil's bargain. Sophia should have said no. Should have called security and had him removed. Should have protected herself from the man who had already destroyed her once. But she thought about her family, still struggling with debt. She thought about her business, which could benefit from the kind of high-profile contract Damien was offering. And most of all, she thought about the question that had haunted her for 5 years, why? $3 million, she said coldly. Paid up front. A 6-month contract with an exit clause that allows me to walk away at any time without penalty. And you will answer every question I ask, completely and honestly, or the deal is off. Damien didn't even hesitate. Done. There's one more condition. Sophia walked around her desk, stopping inches from him, forcing herself to meet those blue eyes without flinching. This is business. Only business. Whatever we had is dead and buried. You don't get to smile at me like we're old friends. You don't get to touch me or act familiar. You are a client, and I am a professional, and that's all we'll ever be again. Understood? Something that might have been pain crossed his face, but he nodded. Understood. Good. She extended her hand for a businesslike handshake. Phoenix Events will save your reputation, Mr. Blackwood. And when I'm done, you'll disappear from my life forever. Deal? His hand engulfed hers, warm and strong and sending unwanted electricity up her arm. Deal. As they shook hands, Sophia felt a dark satisfaction unfurling in her chest. Damien thought he was hiring her to save him, but he had no idea what he'd just agreed to. She would take his money, rebuild his empire, and in the process, she would make him pay for every tear she'd cried, every humiliation she'd endured. Revenge, she decided, would be a dish served. And it would be absolutely delicious. Part 2, The Game of Hearts, 2,000 words. The contract and the plan. 3 days after Damien's unexpected appearance, Sophia sat in the conference room of Phoenix Events with a team of lawyers, finalizing the most unusual contract of her career. The $3 million had already been transferred to her account, she had verified it twice, still half expecting it to be some cruel joke. But the money was real, and so was the impossible task ahead of her. Damien's company, Blackwood Industries, was hemorrhaging money and credibility. What had once been a tech empire worth billions was now facing multiple lawsuits, a federal investigation into accounting fraud, and a public relations nightmare that made her abandoned wedding look like a minor inconvenience. How did you let it get this bad? Sophia asked, spreading financial reports across the table during their first official meeting. Damien sat across from her, looking exhausted. I trusted the wrong people. Made decisions based on bad advice. Stopped paying attention to the details that mattered. That's not an answer. That's an excuse. She fixed him with a cold stare. If I'm going to fix this mess, I need the truth. All of it. Starting with why your CFO embezzled $40 million, and why you didn't notice until it was too late. For a moment, she thought he might refuse. But then his shoulders sagged, and he pulled out a folder she hadn't seen before. Because I was falling apart, he said quietly. After I left you at the altar, I tried to bury myself in work. I stopped sleeping. Started drinking too much. Signed documents without reading them. Promoted people who didn't deserve it because I couldn't trust my own judgment anymore. Everything I touched turned to poison, Sophia. Including my company. She wanted to feel satisfaction at his admission of suffering. Instead, she felt something uncomfortably close to concern, which annoyed her immensely. Well, the pity part ends now, she said briskly. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to cooperate fully with the federal investigation and hand over everyone involved in the fraud. Second, we're going to restructure your entire leadership team. Third, we're going to launch a media campaign that shows you taking responsibility and making amends. And fourth, she paused, enjoying the power she held over him. You're going to be my date to the Business Excellence Awards next month. Damien's head snapped up. What? You heard me. The press will be there. Your competitors will be there. Everyone who's been writing your obituary will be there. And they're going to see you escorting me, the woman you humiliated 5 years ago, as if we're perfectly cordial business associates. It sends a message that you're mature enough to maintain professional relationships even with people you've wronged. Plus, she smiled coldly. It's going to drive the gossip sites absolutely insane. Sophia, I don't care what you think. You hired me to save you, and this is how we start. Unless you want to back out of our deal? He stared at her for a long moment, something unreadable in his eyes. No. I'll do it. Whatever you say. Good. Now get out. I have work to do, and you're distracting me. As he left, Sophia allowed herself a small smile. Phase 1 of her revenge was complete. She would parade him around like a trophy, reminding everyone of what he did while simultaneously appearing magnanimous and professional. It was perfect. So why did she feel so hollow? The first crack in the armor. Over the next few weeks, Sophia threw herself into salvaging Blackwood Industries with the same ferocity she'd used to build her own company. She worked 18-hour days, negotiating with creditors, meeting with lawyers, and systematically dismantling the corrupt structure that had nearly destroyed everything Damien built. And despite her determination to keep things purely professional, she found herself noticing things about him she wished she could ignore. The way he listened intently when she spoke, taking notes and asking intelligent questions. The way he insisted on bringing her coffee exactly how she liked it, 2 sugars, extra cream, even though she'd never told him she still took it that way. The way he looked at her sometimes when he thought she wasn't watching, with an expression so full of regret it made her chest ache. One evening, working late in his nearly empty office building, she found him staring at a photograph on his desk. She couldn't see what it was, but when he noticed her watching, he quickly turned it face down. What was that? She asked, curiosity getting the better of her. Nothing important. Damien. She used his first name without thinking, then cursed herself for the slip. If we're going to work together, you need to be honest with me. About everything. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he picked up the photograph and handed it to her. It was a picture of them from the engagement party. She was laughing at something he'd said, her head thrown back in pure joy, while he looked at her like she was the only person in the world. They looked so happy. So in love. So completely unaware of the devastation coming. I kept it, he said softly. I know I have no right to. I know it probably makes you angry. But I couldn't throw it away. It's the last picture I have of us before I ruined everything. Sophia's hand trembled as she set the photograph down. Why, Damien? The question burst out of her before she could stop it. Why did you leave me? You owe me that much. He stood, pacing to the window overlooking the city lights. When he spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. Because someone threatened to destroy your life if I married you. Someone who had the power to do it, and the cruelty to enjoy it. The room seemed to tilt. What are you talking about? The morning of our wedding, I received a package. Inside were photographs, documents, fabricated evidence that would have made it look like you were involved in corporate espionage. They threatened to leak it all to the press, to have you arrested, to make sure you never worked in events again. They said if I went through with the wedding, they'd destroy you within a week. Sophia felt like she couldn't breathe. Who? Who would do that? Damien turned to face her, and she saw the anguish in his eyes. My father. The twisted truth. Your father? Sophia repeated, her mind reeling. But he was at the wedding. He seemed happy for us. He's a master manipulator, Damien said bitterly. He built his fortune by destroying anyone who got in his way. And he saw you as a liability. A distraction. A gold digger who was only after my money. That's insane. We were in love. You knew I didn't care about your money. I knew. But he didn't believe it. Or didn't want to believe it. Damien slumped back in his chair, looking defeated. He gave me a choice, leave you at the altar and disappear, or watch him systematically destroy your life and your family's life. He showed me exactly how he'd do it. He had everything planned out, down to the last detail. Sophia felt rage building inside her, hot and overwhelming. So you just left? Without explaining? Without giving me a chance to fight back? I thought I was protecting you. Damien's voice rose with emotion. I thought if I disappeared, he'd leave you alone. I thought you'd hate me, move on, and build a better life without me dragging you down. I thought, his voice broke. I thought it was the only way to keep you safe. Safe? Sophia laughed, a harsh sound full of pain. You think what happened to me was safe? I lost everything, Damien. My reputation, my dignity, my family's savings. My father worked himself sick paying off the wedding debts. My mother couldn't show her face in public for months. My sister gave up college. You didn't protect me, you destroyed me just as thoroughly as your father threatened to. I know. Tears streamed down his face, and she realized she'd never seen him cry before. I know I made the wrong choice. I've known it every single day for 5 years. I should have told you the truth. I should have fought for us. I should have. Stop. Sophia held up her hand, unable to process the avalanche of revelations. Just stop. I need time to think. She grabbed her bag and headed for the door, but Damien's voice stopped her. There's more you need to know. She didn't turn around. What? The reason my company is falling apart? The fraud, the embezzlement, all of it? It was my father. He's been sabotaging me for years, trying to force me to come back and beg for his help. He wants me broken and desperate so he can control me again. Sophia turned slowly. Why are you telling me this now? Because he knows you're helping me. And he's going to come after you again. He already has. Her blood ran cold. What do you mean? Damien pulled out his phone and showed her a series of emails. Her eyes widened as she read them, threats, intimidation, falsified evidence that could destroy Phoenix events just like he'd threatened to destroy her 5 years ago. He sent these this morning, Damien said. He wants me to fire you and crawl back to him for help. And if I don't, he's promised to make sure your company never plans another event in this city. Sophia's mind raced. Everything made sense now, the sudden cancellations from clients, the negative reviews that had appeared online in the past week, the permits that were mysteriously delayed for her events. He's already started, she whispered. Yes. And I won't let him hurt you again. Damien stood, determination hardening his features. Fire me as your client. Walk away. Protect yourself and your company. I'll figure something else out. For a moment, Sophia considered it. The smart thing would be to run, to protect everything she'd built, to let Damien fight his own battles. But then she thought about her family, still struggling. About the little girl she'd once been, who believed that good always triumphed over evil. About the woman she'd become, who had clawed her way back from nothing and refused to be a victim ever again. No, she said firmly. Sophia. I said no. Your father tried to destroy me once, and I survived. I built something better, something stronger. And I'll be damned if I let him take it away from me a second time. She walked back to Damien, standing toe-to-toe with him. We're not just going to save your company. We're going to take down your father. Together. A spark of hope flashed in Damien's eyes. You mean it? I mean it. But understand this, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for me. For my family. For everyone your father has hurt. This isn't about us getting back together or some romantic redemption arc. This is about justice. I understand. Good. Then here's what we're going to do. Sophia pulled out her phone and started typing. We're going to set a trap. We're going to make your father think he's won. And then we're going to watch him fall. The dangerous game. The Business Excellence Awards came faster than Sophia expected, and suddenly she was standing in front of her closet trying to decide what one wears to a fake date with an ex-fiancé while secretly plotting to take down his billionaire father. She chose a deep emerald gown that hugged her curves and made her feel powerful. When Damien picked her up, the look on his face told her she'd chosen correctly. You look, he stopped, swallowing hard. You look beautiful. Say the compliments, she said coolly, even as her traitorous heart skipped a beat. Remember, this is just for show. But as the evening progressed, the line between performance and reality began to blur. Damien's hand rested lightly on her back as they navigated the crowded ballroom, and she found herself leaning into his touch before catching herself. When he laughed at something she said, she remembered why she'd fallen in love with him in the first place. And when his father approached them, drink in hand and a predatory smile on his face, she felt Damien's entire body tense beside her. Well, Richard Blackwood said smoothly. Isn't this cozy? The abandoned bride playing house with my wayward son. Mr. Blackwood, Sophia said with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. How lovely to see you. Is it? I would have thought you'd have more pride than to come crawling back to the man who humiliated you in front of the entire country. I'm not crawling anywhere. I'm here as a business consultant, helping your son clean up the mess someone made of his company. She let the implication hang in the air. Richard's eyes narrowed. Careful, Ms. Martinez. You're playing in waters far deeper than you understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, she said sweetly. I understand that some people gain power by destroying others. But I also understand that empires built on cruelty always fall eventually. It's just a matter of time. Is that a threat? It's an observation. Excuse us, won't you? Damien and I have people to see. As they walked away, Damien whispered, that was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid. Sometimes they're the same thing, she replied. But her hands were shaking, and when they found a quiet corner, she had to take several deep breaths to calm down. Are you okay? Damien asked, genuine concern in his voice. I'm fine. Seeing him, knowing what he did. I'm sorry. I should have warned you he'd be here. No, I needed to face him. I needed to look him in the eye and show him I'm not afraid anymore. She looked up at Damien. Thank you for standing with me. Always, he said softly. For as long as you'll let me. The moment stretched between them, charged with something dangerous and electric. Sophia found herself noticing details she'd tried so hard to ignore, the familiar scent of his cologne, the way his eyes crinkled when he looked at her, the memory of how perfectly her hand fit in his. "Sophia," he breathed, leaning closer. Don't," she whispered, but she didn't pull away. "Don't say whatever you're about to say. We can't go back." "I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. With you. Damien." But then his phone buzzed urgently, shattering the moment. He pulled it out, and his face went pale. "What? What is it?" "It's a message from an unknown number. They have evidence that proves my father orchestrated everything. The fraud, the embezzlement, all of it. They want to meet. Tonight." Part 3, Love's Final Verdict, 2,000 words. The trap within a trap. The abandoned warehouse on the waterfront looked like something from a crime thriller, all shadows and rusted metal and the smell of salt water. Sophia knew coming here was dangerous, possibly stupid, but the message had been clear: come alone, or the evidence disappears forever. Except she wasn't alone. Damien had refused to let her go without him, and after a heated argument, they'd compromised. He would stay in the car with the police on speed dial while she went inside to meet whoever had sent the message. "I don't like this," Damien said for the 10th time as she reached for the door handle. "This could be another one of my father's tricks." "It could be," Sophia agreed. "But it could also be our only chance to stop him. I have to take that risk." "Then let me come with you." "No. They said come alone, and I'm not taking chances with your life too." She squeezed his hand briefly. "If I'm not back in 20 minutes, call the police." Before he could argue further, she slipped out of the car and made her way toward the warehouse entrance. The door was unlocked, creaking open to reveal a vast empty space lit only by moonlight streaming through broken windows. "Hello," she called out, her voice echoing off concrete walls. A figure stepped out from the shadows, and Sophia's breath caught. It was a woman, late 40s, impeccably dressed, with the kind of face that commanded attention and respect. "Ms. Martinez," the woman said. "Thank you for coming. My name is Victoria Blackwood. I'm Damien's mother." Sophia felt her world tilt again. His mother? But he said you died when he was young. That's what Richard wanted everyone to believe. Including our son. Victoria's smile was sad and bitter. "The truth is, I left. Or rather, I was forced to leave. When Damien was 10, Richard gave me a choice: disappear completely or watch him take my son away through legal proceedings where he'd make me look like an unfit mother. He had judges, lawyers, evidence manufacturers. I couldn't fight him, so I did what I thought was best for Damien. I left. But why are you here now? Why contact us?" "Because I've been watching Richard destroy our son for years, and I'm done staying silent." Victoria pulled out a thick folder. "I've spent 15 years gathering evidence against my ex-husband. Every illegal deal, every life he's ruined, every law he's broken. It's all in here. And now I want to help you take him down." Sophia's hand shook as she took the folder. "Why me? Why not just go to the police yourself?" "Because Richard has connections everywhere. Police, judges, prosecutors. He'd make the evidence disappear and me along with it." "But you? You're smart, resourceful, and most importantly, you have something I don't." "What's that?" "Damien's trust. If this is going to work, we need him to testify against his father. And he'll only do that if you convince him it's the right thing to do." Before Sophia could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Damien: "Get out now. My father knows you're there." "We need to go," Sophia said urgently. But it was too late. The warehouse lights blazed on, temporarily blinding them. When Sophia's vision cleared, Richard Blackwood stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 men who looked more like hired muscle than security guards. Of his cologne, the way his eyes crinkled when he looked at her, the memory of how perfectly her hand fit in his. "Sophia," he breathed, leaning closer. I don't, she whispered, but she didn't pull away. Don't say whatever you're about to say. We can't go back. I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. With you. Damien. But then his phone buzzed urgently, shattering the moment. He pulled it out, and his face went pale. What? What is it? It's a message from an unknown number. They have evidence that proves my father orchestrated everything. The fraud, the embezzlement, all of it. They want to meet. Tonight. Part 3, Love's Final Verdict, 2,000 words. The trap within a trap. The abandoned warehouse on the waterfront looked like something from a crime thriller, all shadows and rusted metal and the smell of salt water. Sophia knew coming here was dangerous, possibly stupid, but the message had been clear: come alone, or the evidence disappears forever. Except she wasn't alone. Damien had refused to let her go without him, and after a heated argument, they'd compromised. He would stay in the car with the police on speed dial while she went inside to meet whoever had sent the message. I don't like this, Damien said for the 10th time as she reached for the door handle. This could be another one of my father's tricks. It could be, Sophia agreed. But it could also be our only chance to stop him. I have to take that risk. Then let me come with you. No. They said come alone, and I'm not taking chances with your life too. She squeezed his hand briefly. If I'm not back in 20 minutes, call the police. Before he could argue further, she slipped out of the car and made her way toward the warehouse entrance. The door was unlocked, creaking open to reveal a vast empty space lit only by moonlight streaming through broken windows. Hello, she called out, her voice echoing off concrete walls. A figure stepped out from the shadows, and Sophia's breath caught. It was a woman, late 40s, impeccably dressed, with the kind of face that commanded attention and respect. Ms. Martinez, the woman said. Thank you for coming. My name is Victoria Blackwood. I'm Damien's mother. Sophia felt her world tilt again. His mother? But he said you died when he was young. That's what Richard wanted everyone to believe. Including our son. Victoria's smile was sad and bitter. The truth is, I left. Or rather, I was forced to leave. When Damien was 10, Richard gave me a choice: disappear completely or watch him take my son away through legal proceedings where he'd make me look like an unfit mother. He had judges, lawyers, evidence manufacturers. I couldn't fight him, so I did what I thought was best for Damien. I left. But why are you here now? Why contact us? Because I've been watching Richard destroy our son for years, and I'm done staying silent. Victoria pulled out a thick folder. I've spent 15 years gathering evidence against my ex-husband. Every illegal deal, every life he's ruined, every law he's broken. It's all in here. And now I want to help you take him down. Sophia's hand shook as she took the folder. Why me? Why not just go to the police yourself? Because Richard has connections everywhere. Police, judges, prosecutors. He'd make the evidence disappear and me along with it. But you? You're smart, resourceful, and most importantly, you have something I don't. What's that? Damien's trust. If this is going to work, we need him to testify against his father. And he'll only do that if you convince him it's the right thing to do. Before Sophia could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Damien: get out now. My father knows you're there. We need to go, Sophia said urgently. But it was too late. The warehouse lights blazed on, temporarily blinding them. When Sophia's vision cleared, Richard Blackwood stood in the doorway, flanked by two men who looked more like hired muscle than security guards.